Fear is a relentless enemy. It whispers in the quiet moments, it shouts in the storms, and it lingers in the shadows of uncertainty. It tells us we are not enough, that we are alone, that the obstacles ahead are too great to overcome. But this is not the truth. This is not the voice we are meant to listen to. Because beyond the noise of fear, beyond the weight of doubt, there is a greater reality, a divine assurance that we are never alone, that strength is given freely to those who trust, and that courage is not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. These words from Isaiah 41:10 are not just ancient scripture. They are a battle cry, a divine declaration, a truth that is echoed through history and has upheld the weary, the broken, the uncertain. They remind us that fear is not the final word, that despair is not our inheritance, and that no matter how deep the waters rise, no matter how strong the winds blow, we are not left to stand alone. But faith is not just a warm sentiment, nor is it a passive wish for things to be different. Faith is the unshakable belief that, even in the darkest moments, God is present. It is the refusal to surrender to panic, to give in to the paralysis of uncertainty. It is the act of standing firm, of stepping forward when everything inside you screams to retreat. Because fear has a way of distorting reality. It magnifies our problems, it diminishes our strength, and it convinces us that we are isolated. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. The greatest men and women in history faced fear, not because they were weak, but because they were on the front lines of something significant. David stood before Goliath, not because he was fearless, but because he trusted in something greater than himself. Moses led his people through the Red Sea, not because he was without doubt, but because he obeyed a call that transcended his fear. Even Christ, in his final moments, faced the weight of the world's suffering with trembling hands and a heavy heart, yet he pressed forward. Not my will, but yours be done. These are not the words of someone who never knew fear. These are the words of someone who overcame it. And how do we overcome it? How do we push past the suffocating grip of fear when everything inside us tells us to give up? We remember. We remember who we are and whose we are. We remember that the same God who crafted the heavens, who spoke light into darkness, who calls each star by name, is the same God who walks beside us. He is not distant. He is not indifferent. He is here right now in the moments of uncertainty, in the seasons of trial, in the depths of suffering. There is a choice we must make every day. Will we listen to the voice of fear, or will we hold on to faith? Will we allow our worries to dictate our steps, or will we stand firm in the promise that we are never abandoned? For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. If fear is not from Him, then why do we so often give it a throne in our lives? Why do we allow it to rob us of joy, of peace, of purpose? Because fear is persuasive. It masquerades as wisdom. It tells us to play it safe, to shrink back, to avoid the risk of failure, of rejection, of pain. But what kind of life is that? What kind of existence do we have when we let fear be our master? We were not created for small lives. We were not designed for mediocrity, for hesitation, for self-doubt that keeps us from stepping into the fullness of what God has called us to. Faith over fear is not just a slogan. It is a way of life. It is a decision, a discipline, a commitment to seeing beyond what is visible. When fear says, "You are alone," faith responds, "God is with me." When fear says, "You are weak," faith declares, "I am upheld by His strength." When fear whispers, "You will fail," faith proclaims, "Even if I fall, He will lift me up." And there will be times when fear does not vanish immediately. There will be nights when the weight of anxiety presses down like an unbearable burden. But that is when we hold on tighter. That is when we cling to the promises of God like a lifeline, refusing to let go. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27, verse 1. These words are not mere poetry. They are truth. They are reality. We must train our minds, discipline our hearts, immerse ourselves in the Word until fear loses its power. We must remember that courage is not a feeling, it is a choice. It is the act of standing, even when trembling. It is the decision to move forward, even when uncertainty looms. It is the unrelenting belief that the God who has led us this far will not abandon us now. And make no mistake, there is an enemy who thrives on fear. He wants nothing more than for you to be paralyzed, to be silenced, to be so consumed by doubt that you never step into the calling placed on your life. But we do not fight alone. We have been given the armor of God, the sword of truth, the shield of faith. We are equipped, we are empowered, and most importantly, we are not forsaken. When fear arises, as it surely will, we answer it with faith. When the storms rage, we plant our feet on the solid rock of His promises. When darkness tries to consume us, we lift our eyes to the one who is the light of the world. We remember that our strength is not our own. It is given by the one who holds all things together. So stand firm. Do not let fear rule you. Do not let doubt silence you. You were created for more than worry, for more than hesitation, for more than a life dictated by what is and worst-case scenarios. You were made for faith, for courage, for boldness that does not waver in the face of uncertainty. Fear not, for I am with you. These are not empty words. They are the very foundation upon which we stand. They are the anchor in the storm, the light in the darkness, the unshakable reality that sea life is a battlefield. It is unpredictable, filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments where everything feels like it's against you. And in those moments, when the weight of the world presses down, when the fight seems unwinnable, when you feel exposed and vulnerable to forces beyond your control, the question arises, who or what is protecting you? The truth is, every person at some point will encounter fear. You will face days when the threats are real, when the enemy, whether external or internal, seems too strong, when your own strength feels insufficient. And in those moments, it is easy to believe that you are unprotected, that you are left alone to fend for yourself. But that is a lie. You are not unguarded. You are not abandoned. There is a protection far beyond what you can see, a presence that shields you, a fortress stronger than any danger that could ever come against you. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Psalm 91, verse 4. These are not just poetic words. They are reality. They are the unseen foundation that holds your life together when everything around you is shaking. Because make no mistake, life will shake you. There will be moments of uncertainty, moments of loss, moments of deep suffering. And the question is not whether you will encounter these things, but who you will trust to protect you when they come. So many people believe that their protection comes from their own strength, their own intelligence, their own ability to navigate life's difficulties. And to an extent, personal responsibility matters. You must be diligent. You must be wise. You must take the steps necessary to guard yourself against unnecessary harm. But no amount of human effort can ever fully protect you from the unpredictable chaos of life. There are forces beyond your control, circumstances that arise suddenly, dangers that no amount of preparation can prevent. And this is where faith comes in, not as a passive hope, not as a mere wish for safety, but as a trust in something infinitely greater than yourself. It is terrifying to acknowledge that you are not in control. To truly grasp that, no matter how much you plan, how much you build, how much you guard yourself, there will always be forces that can undo it all in a moment. And that is where people break. That is where fear takes over, because when you realize your own limits, when you see how fragile everything truly is, the natural instinct is to panic. But what if you didn't have to? What if instead of grasping for control, you chose to rest in the assurance that you are already protected? We are given countless examples of divine protection in Scripture. Stories of men and women who faced overwhelming danger, impossible odds, and yet they were not consumed. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, he was not the strongest one there. He had no weapon, no means of escape, and yet he walked out untouched. Not because of his strength, but because he was shielded by something greater. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fire, they did not escape it. They walked through it, and yet they were not burned. Because protection does not always mean avoiding danger. It means that even in the midst of it, you will not be destroyed. And that is the truth so many people miss. They believe that divine protection means an easy life, a life without struggle, without opposition, without hardship. But that is not what protection is. Real protection means that no matter what comes against you, it will not have the final say. It means that the fire may surround you, but it will not consume you. It means that the storm may rage, but it will not break you. Think about that for a moment. Let it sink in. You are not promised a life without battles, but you are promised that you will not face them alone. And if you truly believe that, how differently would you live? If you truly grasp the reality that you are covered, that even when you walk through the darkest valley, you are not walking unguarded, how much more courageously would you step forward? The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. Psalm 18:02. This is not passive hope. This is a declaration of reality. This is a reminder that no matter what surrounds you, no matter what threatens you, no matter what stands against you, there is something greater surrounding you still. And yet, so many people live as if they are unprotected. They live as if fear has already won. They walk through life with a posture of defeat, as if every obstacle is an unconquerable force, as if every danger is inevitable destruction. And the truth is, when you believe you are unprotected, you begin to act like it. You begin to shrink back. You begin to hesitate. You begin to make decisions out of fear instead of faith. Faith, and that is how people lose battles. Not because they were overpowered, but because they surrendered before the fight even began. But what if you lived differently? What if instead of fear, you stepped forward in confidence? What if instead of shrinking back, you moved boldly, knowing that you were not moving alone? Because you were not alone. You never were. This is not just an emotional sentiment. This is the reality of every person who places their trust in God. And yet it is easy to forget. It is easy to get caught up in the visible, to focus so much on what is coming against you that you forget who is standing for you. And that is why faith must be cultivated. It must be strengthened. It must be reminded daily that the one who guards you does not sleep, does not grow weary, does not abandon his own. So the question is not whether you are protected. The question is whether you believe it, whether you will choose to live in that reality, whether you will walk through life as someone who understands that no matter what comes, you are shielded by something greater. And when you truly believe it, everything changes. Fear loses its grip. The weight of anxiety lifts because suddenly the battles you face are no longer faced alone. The threats that once paralyzed you lose their power because the one who covers you is stronger than anything that could ever come against you. He will cover you with his fetters, and under his wings you will find refuge. This is not just poetry, this is truth. This is the reason you can stand firm when others fall. This is the reason you can walk boldly when others hesitate. This is the reason you can move forward even when everything around you tells you to be afraid, because you are protected. You always have been, and you always will be. Strength is not what people think it is. Most imagine strength as something visible, muscles, power, confidence that radiates in every step. But true strength is something far deeper. It is not about appearing powerful. It is about endurance, about the ability to stand when everything inside you screams to fall. It is the kind of strength that doesn't come from yourself because, let's be honest, human strength is limited. You reach a point where your energy runs out, where your mind grows tired, where your heart feels like it cannot bear another hit. And that is where so many people break. But you are not meant to break. You were never meant to rely solely on your own strength, to carry the weight of life on your own back, to exhaust yourself trying to hold everything together. That is not strength. That is pride disguised as self-sufficiency. And it is a lie. Because real strength, the kind that does not fail, the kind that lasts, is not found within you. It is given. It is granted. It is poured into those who understand their limits and look beyond themselves for something greater. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is not just a feel-good verse, not just something to print on a motivational poster. It is a declaration of reality. It is a reminder that your strength is not your own, and that changes everything. Because if your strength comes from yourself, then of course you will reach a breaking point. Of course you will struggle. Of course you will feel overwhelmed. But if your strength comes from something far beyond you, if your power is not just yours but His, then the limitations that once defined you no longer hold you back. And yet, so many people live as if they are weak, as if they have no power, as if they are at the mercy of circumstances, of emotions, of the constant pressure life throws at them. They wake up already defeated. They move through their days as if exhaustion is their default state. They assume that because they feel weak, they must be weak. But feeling weak is not the same as being weak. Look at history. Look at the people who have changed the world, who have endured suffering, who have walked through fire and come out the other side. Do you think they never felt weak? Do you think they never reached moments where they thought they couldn't go on? Of course they did. But they kept going, not because they relied on their own power, but because they understood that there was something greater sustaining them. Because real strength is not about never feeling weak. It is about standing up even when you do. And the truth is, sometimes weakness is a gift because it forces you to realize that you were never meant to do this alone. It forces you to look beyond yourself, to reach for something more, to recognize that true power is found not in self-sufficiency, but in dependence on the one who never grows weary. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40, verse 31, think about that. Truly think about it. To run and not grow weary. To walk through the struggles of life and not faint under the weight of it all. That is not human strength. That is something entirely different. That is divine endurance. And the world does not understand this. The world glorifies independence, self-reliance, the idea that you must be strong enough on your own, that you must push through by sheer force of will. And yes, discipline matters. Yes, effort matters. But there is a point where human effort reaches its limit. And what then? What happens when you can't push through? What happens when you collapse under the weight of it all? This is where most people give up. This is where they convince themselves they are too weak, too broken, too tired to continue. But this is also where faith transforms everything. Because when you are at your weakest, He is at His strongest. And if you truly believe that, if you truly grasp that your ability to keep going is not determined by your own power, but by the one who empowers you, then how much differently would you face your struggles? Paul understood this. He had every reason to give up, every reason to let the weight of his suffering crush him. He was beaten, imprisoned, rejected, and yet he wrote, For when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians 12:10. That is a paradox the world cannot understand. How can weakness be strength? How can surrender lead to victory? It is because true power is not about physical might. It is about resilience, about the refusal to be broken, about the ability to stand when everything in life tries to push you down. And that kind of strength does not come from willpower alone. It comes from knowing that you are upheld, sustained, carried by something far beyond yourself. And here's the real question. Do you believe it? Do you live as if this is true? Or do you still walk through life as if everything depends on you? Because if you are still trying to carry the full weight of life on your own, then of course you feel exhausted. Of course you feel overwhelmed. You are never meant to do this alone. Strength is not about pretending you have everything under control. It is about trusting that even when you don't, you are held by the one who does. It is about understanding that when you run out of energy, when you run out of willpower, when you run out of everything you thought was enough, he is still there. And if you grasp that, if you hold on to that, then there is nothing in this world that can truly break you. There is no obstacle too great, no storm too strong, no weight too heavy, because you do not stand in your own power, you stand in his. So stop living as if you are weak. Stop walking through life as if you are at the mercy of your struggles. Yes, you will feel tired. Yes, you will have days where you don't think you can keep going, but those moments are not the end. They are the beginning of something deeper. They are the moments where your own strength ends and his begins. And when you understand that, you will walk differently. You will move forward with confidence, not because life is easy, not because the battles disappear, but because you know that no matter how hard it gets, you will not fall. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Not some things, not just the easy things, all things. That is not just encouragement. That is a reality, a promise, a truth that if you choose to believe it, will change the way you live. So stand up, keep moving, keep fighting, not because you are strong enough on your own, but because you don't have to be. Because the one who gives you strength never grows weary, never wavers, never fails, and neither will you. There is a war being waged over your life, not the kind fought with weapons or armies, but a war nonetheless. One that is waged in your mind, in your heart, in the deepest places of your soul. And in this battle, you are not just a passive observer, you are the target. You are the one the enemy seeks to destroy, to weaken, to confuse, to silence. And if you are not aware of it, if you are not prepared, then you will be overcome before you even realize what is happening. But you are not defenseless. You are not without protection. You are not meant to walk through this life vulnerable to every attack, every deception, every force that tries to drag you down. You have been given armor. You have been given weapons. You have been given divine authority to stand against anything that comes against you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, Isaiah 54:17. That is not just a comforting phrase. That is a declaration of power, a command to stand firm, to refuse to be overcome, to fight back with the knowledge that victory is not just possible, it is assured. But here is where so many people go wrong. They assume that because they have faith, because they believe in God, they will never face resistance, that somehow life should be easier, smoother, without opposition. And when the attacks come, when difficulties arise, when darkness presses in, they are caught off guard. They begin to question, to doubt, to wonder why they are struggling. But here is the truth. If you are being attacked, it is because you are dangerous. Think about that. If you were no threat to the enemy, why would he bother with you? Why would he waste his time on someone who poses no challenge? No. The fact that you are facing battles is not proof of your weakness. It is proof of your significance. It is proof that there is something inside you that terrifies the forces of darkness, something powerful, something meant to shake the very foundations of this world. And that is why you must be armed. That is why you cannot afford to walk through life unprepared, unaware, exposed to the attacks that will inevitably come. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Ephesians 6:11. This is not optional. This is not a suggestion. This is a command, because the enemy is not passive. He does not take days off. He is relentless, looking for any weakness, any crack, any moment where you let your guard down. And if you do not arm yourself, if you do not strengthen yourself daily, then you will be caught unprepared. And what does this armor look like? Truth, righteousness, faith, the Word of God. These are not abstract ideas. They are weapons. They are the shield that stops the arrows meant to pierce you, the sword that cuts through deception, the protection that keeps you standing when everything else tries to knock you down. Without them, you are vulnerable. Without them, you are an easy target, and the enemy knows exactly where to strike. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your fears. He knows the exact thoughts that will make you question your worth, your purpose, your identity. He will whisper lies, lies that sound so much like your own thoughts that you begin to believe them. You're not strong enough. You're not good enough. You will fail. And if you are not armed with truth, if you do not have the Word of God engraved into your very soul, then those lies will take root. They will grow, and they will begin to define you. But the truth is more powerful than any lie, and the truth is this: you are not weak. You are not alone. You are not a victim. You are a warrior. You are equipped. You are protected by something far greater than anything that could come against you. The Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:03. This is not wishful thinking. This is reality. But protection does not mean the battle disappears. It does not mean you will never face hardship, that you will never be attacked. It means that when the attacks come, they will not destroy you. It means that when darkness rises, you have a light that cannot be extinguished. It means that when you stand, you do not stand alone. And this is where many people fall. They mistake protection for passivity. They believe that because God is their protector, they do not need to fight. But protection is not about sitting back and hoping everything works out. It is about standing your ground, about holding the line, about refusing to back down when the pressure increases. It is about stepping into battle, fully armed, fully aware, fully confident that the one who called you to stand will not let you fall. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. Psalm 18:02. Think about that. A fortress, a shield, a stronghold. Not a fragile structure that can be torn down, not a weak defense that crumbles at the first sign of trouble, but something unshakable, immovable, indestructible. That is the protection you have been given. So why do so many people live as if they are defenseless? Why do they walk through life as if they are at the mercy of every attack, every difficulty, every challenge? Because they have forgotten. They have forgotten who they are. They have forgotten what has been given to them. They have forgotten that they are already victorious. And if you truly believed it, how differently would you live? If you truly understood that no weapon formed against you will prosper, that no attack can truly defeat you, that you are surrounded, upheld, and guarded by the very power of God, would you still live in fear? Would you still hesitate? Would you still allow the enemy's lies to define you? Or would you rise? Would you step forward, fully armed, fully aware, fully confident that nothing in this world can stand against you when you are standing in the power of God? Because that is the truth, that is reality, and it is time to start living like it. So put on the armor, pick up the sword, stand firm, because you are not weak, you are not vulnerable, you are not exposed to the attacks of the enemy without protection. You are guarded. You are covered. You are defended by a fortress that cannot be shaken, and the war has already been won. The battle is not about whether you will be victorious. The battle is about whether you will believe it, whether you will walk in the authority you have been given, whether you will stand in the protection that is already yours. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. That is not a possibility. That is a fact. So live as if it is true. Fight as if it is true. Stand as if it is true, because it is.